cheap whiskey has a reputation problem. Somewhere along the line, under $25 became shorthand for regret, headaches, and bottles that only exist to disappear into cola. But that idea is outdated. Today we're ranking real, widely available US whiskeys that still respect your palate, even at budget prices. This isn't about hype, nostalgia, or brand loyalty. It's about what actually earns a second pour. We're starting at the bottom of the list, where value shows promise but still leaves something on the table, and climbing toward bottles that feel like they're getting away with something. Number 10, Jim Beam White Label Bourbon, approximately $12.99. Jim Beam opens this list not because it's bad, but because it's unavoidable. At roughly $12.99, this is the baseline bourbon, the reference point most people unconsciously use when they think whiskey. And that's exactly why it lands here. Beam delivers a familiar profile built on sweet corn, light vanilla, and dry oak, with just enough warmth to remind you it's 80 proof. Nothing is broken, but nothing is pushing forward either. What Beam does well is consistency. No matter where you buy it, it tastes the same, and that reliability has value. In mixed drinks, especially bourbon and ginger or whiskey cola, it behaves predictably and doesn't fight the other ingredients. The sweetness stays polite, the oak doesn't dominate, and the alcohol never spikes aggressively. Where it loses ground is neat. Sipped slowly, the flavor thins out quickly, leaving a short finish that fades before you've fully processed it. It doesn't invite exploration or reward patience. Beam feels like a bourbon that clocks in, does its job, and clocks out. That's why it starts the countdown. Jim Beam White Label isn't here to impress, it's here to establish the floor. Number 9, Benchmark Old No. 8, Bourbon, approximately $9.99. At around $9.99, Benchmark Old No. 8 feels almost suspicious. This is one of those bottles people buy as a placeholder and accidentally finish. The nose is light but pleasant, offering caramel sweetness and a soft grain note that doesn't scream budget. On the palate, it's gentle, slightly sugary, and surprisingly clean for the price. Benchmark's strength is approachability. There's no harsh edge, no bitter spike, and no distracting aftertaste. It goes down easily, especially over ice, where the sweetness rounds out and the alcohol stays tame. In casual settings, house parties, game nights, no-pressure pours, it fits seamlessly. The limitation becomes obvious when you slow it down. Neat, the whiskey lacks depth. The flavor arrives, says hello, and leaves without much conversation. There's very little development from entry to finish, and complexity is clearly not the goal. Still, at under $10, Benchmark isn't trying to compete with premium bottles. It's competing with disappointment, and it wins that battle comfortably. This spot on the list reflects value over character, but value counts. Hashtag 8. Evan Williams Black Label Bourbon, approximately $11.99. Evan Williams Black Label, typically priced around $11.99, is where this list starts feeling intentional rather than economical. This bourbon brings structure. The aroma leans into classic notes, corn sweetness, oak, and a hint of minty freshness. On the palate, it's fuller than the bottles below it, with a midsection that actually holds your attention. There's a satisfying balance here. Sweetness doesn't dominate, oak doesn't overwhelm, and the alcohol presence feels measured rather than sharp. It performs well neat, improves with a cube of ice, and holds its own in an old-fashioned without collapsing into the sugar. What separates Evan Williams from cheaper competitors is weight. The body has presence, and the finish lingers just long enough to register. It's still straightforward, but it feels composed rather than rushed. The drawback is subtlety. While solid, it doesn't surprise you. After a few sips, you know exactly what it's going to do. That predictability keeps it from climbing higher, but also makes it reliable. This is the bottle that convinces people budget whiskey doesn't have to feel like a compromise. If you're enjoying this countdown, hit like. It helps more than you think. And subscribe if you want more real-world whiskey rankings without the hype or price inflation. Drop your favorite budget bottle in the comments. I read those. Hashtag 7. Old Overholt Straight Rye Whiskey, approximately $18.99. Old Overholt, usually around $18.99, is where the list changes direction. This isn't about sweetness anymore. This is about structure. As a straight rye, Overholt brings dryness, spice, and grip, qualities missing from many budget bourbons. On the nose, you get herbal notes, cracked pepper, and a subtle grain sharpness. The palate follows through with rye spice and a firm backbone that doesn't fold under dilution. In cocktails, especially Manhattans or rye-forward old fashions, it suddenly feels like you know what you're doing. Neat Overholt isn't trying to charm you. It's assertive, dry, and slightly austere. That won't please everyone, but it gives the whiskey identity. It tastes purposeful rather than engineered for mass appeal. Its weakness is warmth. The alcohol can feel forward if you rush it, and those expecting bourbon-style sweetness may be caught off guard. But for the price, it delivers something many cheap bottles don't: personality. At this point in the countdown, we've moved beyond good for the money into good period. And from here on, the gap between price and performance only gets more interesting. Number 6, Four Roses Bourbon, approximately $19.99. Four Roses earns this spot because it quietly does something rare in the sub-$25 range. It feels intentional. Priced around $19.99, this is a bourbon that doesn't rely on gimmicks, nostalgia, or shock value. Instead, it wins by being clean, balanced, and remarkably controlled. From the first pour, the aroma signals restraint: light fruit, soft floral notes, gentle spice. Nothing jumps out, but nothing is missing either. On the palate, Four Roses glides rather than charges. There's a smooth progression from mild sweetness into subtle spice, followed by a tidy finish that doesn't linger too long or vanish too quickly. It's not trying to overwhelm you with oak or sugar. It's trying to stay upright and composed, and that discipline shows. This is the kind of whiskey that feels comfortable being poured for anyone, whether they're new to bourbon or have a shelf full of bottles at home. Where Four Roses really separates itself is adaptability. Neat, it's soft and welcoming. On the rocks, it opens slightly, letting the floral and fruity notes breathe. In cocktails, it behaves. It doesn't dominate an old-fashioned, but it doesn't disappear either. Instead, it holds the center, allowing bitters and citrus to do their work without collapsing the structure. The trade-off is intensity. If you're looking for aggression or a punch of heat, this isn't that bottle. Four Roses doesn't bark, it speaks calmly. For some drinkers, that calmness can feel understated, even forgettable, especially next to higher proof options. But that's exactly why it sits here. At under $20, Four Roses proves that balance itself can be a feature, not a flaw. It's the first bottle on this list that feels genuinely polished, even if it's not trying to steal the spotlight. Number 5, Old Forester 86 Proof Bourbon, approximately $20.99. Old Forester 86, usually found around $20.99, marks a tonal shift in the countdown. This is where oak steps forward and the whiskey starts to feel older than its price tag suggests. The nose leans darker, charred wood, caramelized sugar, and a faint hint of toasted grain that signals seriousness. On the palate, Old Forester carries more weight than anything below it so far. The sweetness is still there, but it's restrained, framed by dry oak and a mild spice that keeps the experience grounded. This bourbon doesn't rush. It builds gradually, with a mid-palate that feels structured rather than loose, and a finish that stays just long enough to remind you it's present. This bottle shines when you want something that feels traditional. Neat pours reward slow sipping. On the rocks, it becomes firmer rather than diluted. In cocktails, especially old fashions, it holds its shape without needing extra sugar to prop it up. It feels like a bar staple because it behaves like one. The downside is approachability. Compared to softer, sweeter bottles, Old Forester 86 can feel dry, even stern, especially to newer drinkers. It's not flashy. It doesn't try to charm. It expects you to meet it halfway. That expectation is also its strength. For the price, Old Forester offers a sense of maturity that most budget whiskeys never reach. It doesn't pretend to be premium. It just acts like it belongs in a more expensive conversation. Number 4, Early Times Bottled in Bond Bourbon, 1 liter, approximately $19.99. Early Times Bottled in Bond is the first bottle on this list that feels like it's bending the rules. At roughly $19.99 for a full liter, you're getting more whiskey, more proof, and more intensity than the price should reasonably allow. Bottled at 100 proof under strict standards, this bourbon shows up with confidence. The aroma is bold, sweet corn, vanilla, and a noticeable spice that signals heat before you even sip. On the palate, it delivers exactly what the nose promises. There's weight, warmth, and momentum. The flavor doesn't drift. It stays centered, pushing through sweetness into spice, then settling into a finish that actually lasts. This is not a delicate whiskey. It doesn't tiptoe. Neat pours demand attention. A cube of ice reins it in without stripping character. In cocktails, early times becomes a workhorse. Old fashions, sours, even spirit-forward builds benefit from its proof and backbone. Its main challenge is pacing. Drink it too fast and the alcohol reminds you who's in charge. Drink it slowly and the layers reveal themselves. This bottle rewards intention. What makes early times special isn't refinement, it's honesty. It doesn't hide behind smoothness or sweetness. It delivers structure and power at a price that feels almost outdated. By the time you reach the bottom of the bottle, you realize you've been underpaying the entire time. Number 3, Mellow Corn Bottled in Bond. Corn whiskey, approximately $19.99. Mellow Corn is the wild card. At around $19.99, this bright yellow labeled bottle looks like a joke until you pour it. Then it becomes a conversation. As a bottled in bond corn whiskey, it flips expectations completely. The nose is unmistakable: sweet corn, vanilla, and a cereal-like warmth that feels nostalgic without being gimmicky. On the palate, Mellow Corn leans fully into its identity. It's sweet, yes, but not cloying. The corn character is front and center, supported by gentle oak and a creamy texture that feels almost comforting. The 100 proof strength gives it structure, but the sweetness keeps it approachable. This whiskey behaves differently depending on how you treat it. Neat, it's playful and expressive. On ice, it becomes smooth and dessert-leaning. In cocktails, it creates an entirely different profile. Old fashions turn richer, highballs feel indulgent, and simple mixes gain personality. The risk is obvious. If you dislike sweet profiles or expect traditional bourbon notes, Mellow Corn will feel alien. It's not trying to be a classic bourbon substitute. It's doing its own thing unapologetically. That confidence is why it ranks this high. Mellow Corn doesn't feel like a budget compromise. It feels like a deliberate choice. It may not be for everyone, but for those it clicks with, it becomes a staple. At this point in the countdown, uniqueness starts to matter, and Mellow Corn has it in abundance. Number 2, Old Grandad 100 Proof Bourbon, approximately $24.99. Old Grandad 100 enters this countdown like it has something to prove, and at roughly $24.99, it usually does. This is a bourbon that refuses to soften its edges for mass appeal. From the first pour, it announces itself with a sharper profile than anything below it, driven by a high rye mash bill that shifts the flavor balance away from sweetness and towards spice, citrus peel, and dry oak. The nose sets expectations immediately. There's bright grain, peppery lift, and a faint herbal note that hints at intensity rather than comfort. On the palate, that promise delivers. The 100 proof gives the whiskey a firm spine, allowing flavors to stack instead of blur. Sweetness shows up, but it doesn't linger. It passes the baton quickly to spice, then settles into a finish that stays active without turning abrasive. Where Old Grandad really shines is confidence. Neat pours feel bold without being reckless. A single cube tames the heat while preserving structure. In an old-fashioned, it doesn't disappear under sugar or bitters. It stands upright and pushes back. This is a bottle that makes cocktails feel deliberate instead of decorative. What separates it from similarly priced competition is personality. Old Grandad isn't trying to be smooth or crowd-pleasing. It's trying to be clear. You know exactly what it is after the first sip. That clarity creates loyalty. People who love this bottle don't casually enjoy it. They defend it. The downside is accessibility. For newer drinkers, the spice-forward profile and proof can feel confrontational. This isn't a bourbon that eases you in. It expects attention and rewards it only if you slow down. But for drinkers who want their whiskey awake, this bottle punches well above its price ceiling. At this stage in the ranking, value alone isn't enough. Identity matters. Old Grandad 100 has one, and it wears it unapologetically. That's why it stops just short of the top. Number 1. Wild Turkey 101. Bourbon, approximately $22.49. Wild Turkey 101 doesn't win this list by being subtle. It wins by being complete. At approximately $22.49, this bottle delivers body, flavor, proof, and versatility in a way that feels almost unfair to everything else in its price range. From the first encounter, it feels settled, like it knows exactly what it's doing and has no interest in explaining itself. The aroma opens with richness rather than sharpness. There's caramel, toasted oak, and a warm spice that feels integrated instead of aggressive. On the palate, Wild Turkey 101 moves with purpose. The higher proof carries flavor rather than heat, allowing sweetness, spice, and oak to unfold gradually instead of colliding. The finish lingers confidently, leaving a warmth that invites another sip rather than demanding a pause. What elevates this bottle above the rest is range. Neat pours are rewarding, offering depth without harshness. On the rocks, the whiskey expands rather than dilutes. In cocktails, it anchors the drink. Old fashions feel grounded. Whiskey sours gain dimension. Even simple highballs retain character instead of collapsing into neutrality. Wild Turkey 101 also benefits from honesty. It doesn't pretend to be refined or experimental. It doesn't chase trends. It tastes like a bourbon that was designed to be poured repeatedly, not analyzed once and forgotten. That repeatability matters. This bottle passes the second pour test effortlessly. The only real critique is intensity. At 101 proof, it doesn't disappear into the background. For drinkers seeking softness, it can feel assertive. But that assertiveness is exactly why it earns the top spot. It doesn't compromise to meet the price. It sets the standard and lets the price catch up. At the end of this countdown, Wild Turkey 101 feels inevitable. Not because it's flashy, but because nothing else under $25 delivers this much confidence in every context. It doesn't feel like a budget winner. It feels like a whiskey that happens to cost less than it should. That's the list. From budget survivors to bottles that feel like they're breaking the rules. If your favorite didn't make it, argue with me in the comments. Like the video if you found a new pour, subscribe for more real-world whiskey rankings, and tell me what under $25 bottle deserves its own spot next.